Border Czar Tom Homan just issuing a statement moments ago saying that the meetings with Walz and Fry were productive and a good starting point. Homan says, quote, "We all agree that we need to support our law enforcement officers and get criminals off the streets." President Trump saying he wants to see the investigation of that shooting of the anti-ICE protester Alex Preddy play out. This after sending Border Czar Tom Homan to Minnesota and having what he called a good conversation with Governor Tim Walz. Joining me now to discuss these developments is former acting director for ICE, John Torres. John Torres, great to have you back.
Good to be here, Steve. Thanks.
John, President Trump striking an optimistic tone in the Minnesota situation. This after a call with Governor Tim Walz. Here he is today, followed by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's comments on the call yesterday.
Tom Homan, as you know, is in Minnesota now. He's meeting with the governor, and he's meeting with the mayor, I think, later. And I hear that's all going very well also.
It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota.
John, how important is it for state and local law officials to cooperate with federal officials? And could we see more cooperation here? And what does that ultimately look like to you?
It's critically important, Steve, 100%, regardless of whether they are actually helping ICE enforce immigration law or whether they're just providing crowd control, perimeter control, basically force support while the agents are trying to conduct operations. Because quite frankly, that's how it normally works in other cities or during my career in the past. I can remember many times in Los Angeles when I was a young agent on the streets of LA, we would call into the local police department watch commander, say we're serving a warrant or we're going to be making an arrest at the following address, and they would be on standby. And if we thought that it was going to be a heightened type of an arrest where we needed to bring a SWAT type of team, a special response team, then the police would come with us just to provide potential crowd control and support. That's not happening in Minnesota. And so that's the most rudimentary, basic type of cooperation when everyone knows what's going on and they're working together. And that's not happening. And then you can start talking about, are there varying degrees of immigration support that they could be providing, like turning over people that have been convicted of crimes in the jails over to ICE, and not just state prisons where you have a few people released a month, but we're talking about the county jails and the local jails where those are turning over on a nightly basis.
John, how critical is it that state, local law enforcement doesn't let the protesting get out of control? We've seen that a lot of what has led to these two tragic shootings was the fact that these protesters, two of which who wound up dead, were awfully close and borderline and perhaps actually interfering with the ICE operations.
You hit the nail on the head, Steve. That's massively important. The fact that you're allowing protesters who at times are getting very aggressive and in the face of agents while they're trying to do their job is creating a very hostile situation. You know, it's becoming very tense. And ultimately, you could see that tension building up, that nothing good is going to come from that in the end. If you have local police helping to provide crowd control, then, and let's say you keep them 1,000 feet away and they can still blow their whistles and they can bring their signs and they can yell all they want, and they're not obstructing the roads, they're not getting in the face of agents while they're trying to arrest a particular target that they're after, that becomes hugely critical, and you won't see these types of interactions happening anymore.
John, the president also commenting on the shooting of Alex Preddy in his altercation with those ICE agents over the weekend. Here's a look.
Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation.
So, John, you served as the head of Homeland Security Investigations in Washington, D.C., as well as the head of ICE. What does an investigation like this look like, and what do you think the findings may be?
So you're correct. It's different than just going out and arresting a target. They have to gather all the evidence at the scene. You're going to have Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, working closely with the FBI, as well as Internal Affairs. And Internal Affairs over at DHS is the Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR. And they may even bring in the Office of the Inspector General, OIG, just because this is so high profile. Ultimately, they're going to gather all the evidence, including the forensics. They're going to look at ballistics. They're going to look at all the video on the ground. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of video that probably still hasn't been released. And they're also going to listen to what was being said. I take it from the perspective of what was happening well before the shots were fired, what was happening during the tussle. They're going to look at the different agents' perspectives. They're also going to take a look at the gun that he was legally able to carry, but quite frankly has a very bad history. In fact, ICE actually canceled the contract to carry that particular weapon because it has a history of discharging on its own. And there were several injuries over the years. So multiple agencies have stopped carrying that gun. So they're going to run all of those tests to see what actually happened. And ultimately, and it's not going to happen that quickly either, because it's going to take a significant amount of time to go through all that evidence before they can make a decision and release a report.
Former Acting Director of ICE, John Torres, greatly appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me, Steve.